Hi, everyone. This is Jason Cirillo from the JSOM Career Management Center, and welcome to Preparing Your Resume for the Career Fair. We're going to give you some tips and tricks and just some ideas, general strategies on how to get your resume ready for the upcoming Career Fair season. So, we use the JSOM template here in the Jindal School of Management, and there's a reason for that. The JSON template is very simple, very straightforward. It's easy to read through for those who are reading it, right? So recruiters and hiring managers, when they're looking at your resume, they want to be able to pull out the information very quickly. They want information to pop when they're reading through it. And if you have a lot of graphics and lines and it's very unorganized and it's very difficult, if you have big chunky bullet points or big paragraphs, it's very difficult to read through. And so the JSON template will help you organize that information. These strategies will help you build out your bullet points in a simple way, simple and concise, and also make them show impact and focus more on your accomplishments and just make the overall document much more impactful in the long run, especially when you hand it over to a recruiter and they're reading it and having a conversation with you. They'll be able to pull out all the relevant information. Now, the big thing is keeping it to one page. For many of you, you have a lot of great experiences, and that is good and great. However, ask yourself, do they need to know all of this about me? Many times when I see a student with more than one page resume, by the time they get to the second page, there's stuff on there that doesn't necessarily need to be included, or it could have just been included on the first page had this information on the first page been more concise or just better organized. So in most cases for students, all you need is a one-page resume. Now there may be exceptions on that, and we can definitely help you take a look at that if you have questions for us here in the Career Management Center. But definitely for most of you, one page is going to be the key to really having a professional looking document. We're also going to talk a little bit about the focus on accomplishments versus simple tasks, results focused, metrics, strong action verbs starting after bullet points. And this here is what the template looks like. Now, again, it's very simple, very straightforward, easy to get through, and it's not going to cause any sort of distractions or be hard to read. Now, we're going to split this into two, and I'm going to talk to you a little bit about the details of it. First, we'll look at the very top part of the resume here. Now, we have the um, education here up top. Okay, it's very important to have the education at the top of the resume because for degree plans, a lot of employers will actually look at what degree you have. When they're hiring for interns and new grads, having the correct degree is very, very important. They usually, when they come here, they usually have very specific degrees that they're looking for. For instance, a company may come and say, we only want to talk to supply chain people, or, oh, we're only here to look at, to talk to finance students. So having that degree at the very top is going to be very, very important. The other thing that you want to include is your graduation date right here. This is your anticipated graduation date. With your anticipated graduation date, it's going to show how much longer you have. And it's going to make it a little bit more clear that, for instance, you're graduating soon, so you're looking for a full-time job, or you are graduating in maybe a couple of years, so you're open for an internship. It's also going to give them sort of an idea of where you're at in your academic career, whether you just started or whether, sophomore, junior, senior, master's student. GPA is important for some industries, but NACE, which is the National Association of Colleges and Employers, they're showing that year over year, the GPA is becoming less and less important when it comes to making a decision about who a company wants to hire. Now, that's not true across the board. There's some industries or some job functions, for instance, like accounting, where hiring managers and recruiters tend to look at GPA still, that place importance on that. However, overall, GPA is becoming less and less of a thing. Now, does that mean that you can slack off on your grades? No. What that means is that employers are interested in a holistic view of the student. So someone who has good grades, someone who has, projects or is involved in volunteer work or student organization leadership. They want to see the entire picture of the student. And so that's why the focus is not just going to be lasered in on GPA for a lot of companies these days. So let's break down a bullet point and let me show you a little bit about how the bullet point breaks out here. So this is what we're going to do. Let me use the highlighter here and show you. So we start off with strong action verbs: analyzed, collaborated, researched, prepared, managed, achieved, reconciled. Okay. Those are the strong action verbs that we're using to start off our bullet points. A resume has to sound strong when you write it. Let's take a look at this first bullet point here. Analyze market data on 100 plus corporations by utilizing EDGAR and presented recommendations to leadership, which resulted in a potential portfolio increase of $20,000. So let's take a look at this and break this down. We're answering 3 questions in this bullet point. What did I do? How did I do it? What did I accomplish? If we can answer those 3 questions in a bullet point, then we've written a good bullet point. Now, we may not always be able to answer those questions, but try your very best, and this is how you build out your resume. If you if you don't have those answers to those questions now in your experience, that's okay. Start asking those questions now and in the future, right? Anything from this point on, ask yourself those 3 questions when you're completing projects, when you're working with student groups or student organizations, or you're working in your next internship. Ask yourself those 3 questions because you're going to be responsible for building out good bullet points in your resume. So I'll go into a little bit more detail in just a second into that bullet point formula. But let's break down this first one here. Analyze market data on 100 plus corporations. Now, if all I said was analyze market data, let's just say that that's all I said, right? Analyze market data, the first part of that. And if I was just going to use that bullet point by itself, this is a very boring bullet point. Why? Because it's task focused. Just that by itself sounds like it was in a job description. And that's not what you want a resume to sound like. You want a resume to sound like you made the job your own. Whatever you did, you had an impact. Okay. To make it sound a little bit better, we add in the metric there. Analyze market data on 100 plus corporations. Okay. So the question was, what did I do? Analyze market data on 100 corporations. How did I do it? Utilized EDGAR. What did I accomplish? A potential portfolio increase of $20,000. Okay. That is how you start to build out these strong bullet points. Now, you may not have those metrics, and that's okay. No one is asking you to make up metrics. Okay. Do not include metrics if they're not real. Okay. It's okay to make estimations, but don't falsify any kind of data. What's more important is to be able to talk about those confidently, okay? Make them realistic and don't make them redundant, or, after a while it starts to sound silly if you just start throwing in numbers just to throw in numbers. Make the metrics count, right? Count for something. And other ideas behind metrics, how many people did you work with in a team? If you improved a process, how much did you improve it by? If you generated sales, how much did you generate? If you reduced time on a process, how much did you reduce the time? If you upsold a certain amount of stuff, let's say you're working in retail and you were in charge of, including warranty policies or selling credit cards, credit card signups, how much over the goal did you have, right? Think about the goals that you had and then how you had to reach those, and try to stick numbers on those. Realistic numbers that actually happened. Okay. Do not falsify data on your resume, because it's a very, very quick way to lose credibility in any kind of interview. So this is how you start to build out your bullet points. 3 to 5 bullet points is really all you need. You don't need 20 bullet points on the same thing. If you have 20 bullet points on one experience, ask yourself, what is relevant here? Okay. What is relevant in this part of the resume? You're going to find probably a lot of it is not relevant, so you can probably take a lot of it out. The second part of the resume is where you can include your academic projects and student organization information. If you are a technical student, you're trying to go for more technical degrees, or I'm sorry, technical positions, internships, and new jobs. Use a technical template. You can find that on our website, hirejsom.com. And from there, you'll be able to see the differences of where the technical skills are. Technical skills on the technical template are at the top because you want to be able to show those off very clearly for technical roles. Your academic projects are an opportunity for you to showcase the skills that you've been using that are relevant to the jobs that you're applying to. As an example, maybe you haven't used Excel in any of your part-time jobs in the past, but maybe you used Excel in one of your academic projects, and maybe the job you're applying to requires Excel. Therefore, you want to be able to write about your use of Excel in your academic project. It's not enough to just have it in your technical skills. It's not enough to just say, I know Microsoft Office. More importantly, if you know that the job requires Excel or requires a specific skill, you want to call it out in your specific bullet points. You want to show how you used it. All right. That's going to be one of the most important details of a resume, is not only showing that you have the skill, but showing how you used it in your bullet points. And more importantly, I mean, if you can show that you made an impact with it, even better. Okay. So if you haven't joined a student group, please do join one. They're great opportunities to not only network with your peers, but also have great things to talk about. If you feel like I'm not going to go to this career fair because I don't have a lot of stuff to talk about, well, you've got to start working on things to talk about. You've got to start getting involved so that you have things to talk about. Student organizations are a great way to be able to spice up that elevator pitch and let them know, hey, not only do I, have I, done these part-time jobs in the past, but right now I'm in this degree doing this. I bring together, these soft skills today, and I'm also really excited to be a part of this student organization and take these classes and et cetera. So this is how you're going to start to put together a strong resume for the career fair. And once again, I promised you I'd break down that bullet point formula just a little bit more, and I wanted to kind of show you just visually how it might be broken down. What did I do? How did I do it? What did I accomplish? The three parts to it. Again, if you don't have these metrics, that's okay. But you need to, from this day forward, start thinking about metrics. Start thinking about how is my work being measured, and you'll be able to start to bring up your bullet points as you go throughout your academic journey and go throughout your experiences. A couple of additional things to remember, as I've mentioned before, it's okay to be a student. If you don't have experience, that's okay. Whatever experience you do have, talk about it like very confidently. Talk about it like it's the greatest experience ever. Talk about the great things that you've learned from that experience and how that relates to what you're going to do in the future or what you'd like to do in the future. Again, it's okay to be a student. They come here to talk to you because you are a student. They don't expect an expert. Okay. So be excited, be a student, talk to them about the things that you're really excited about learning. Your resume is going to tell a story, okay? And it can tell a strong story or a weak story depending on how you put it together and depending on what kind of experiences you've already had. But at a career fair, it changes up just a little bit because although your resume tells a story, your voice and your personality tell a much stronger version of that story. Think about it. The reason they're coming here and actually meeting you in person is because they'd rather hear directly from you why you're a great candidate instead of just reading on your resume, right? So as soon as you hand over your resume, or as soon as a recruiter, gets your resume and they start looking at it, um, that this is where they're going to gather some quick information, but that conversation that you have with them automatically it makes your resume sort of take a back seat because now they're listening to you and they're not so much focused on that piece of paper. So for those of you who don't have strong resumes or who don't have a lot of experience, career fairs and conversations like this with employers are your opportunity to show that you have a much stronger story than is on your resume, than what you can communicate in your resume. So, what I always tell students, if you don't have a strong resume, if you don't have a ton of experience, focus more on your conversations because you can probably convince someone that you are a great fit for the role better than your documents can at this point. Okay. Got to be confident. Everything that's on your resume has to be able to be talked about confidently. Don't make up stuff. Okay. Don't overestimate. Don't inflate numbers. Don't create the craziness on your resume, because that is going to quickly be noticed by these experienced interviewers. They will know that you're not being real. So definitely maintain your integrity. Okay. Don't lose your credibility with them. Maintain your professionalism and be confident. Talk about all the details. Like I said, it's okay to estimate, but make them reasonable estimates and make sure they actually happened. Okay. Now, at the career fair, you're going to try to make different resumes for different companies. Every company may be looking for something different. So you want to make sure the resume you hand to them is the one that's tailored to what they're looking for. You can do that research through Handshake and also by informational interviews if you wanted to do that, or you can actually go on to like LinkedIn, go onto their career site, take a look at what types of things that they do as a company. But in Handshake you'll also see in the registration process what the companies are looking for, so you can start to tailor your resume specifically for these companies. So that means that for like the in-person career fair, you're going to have a folder of different resumes that you can hand out. Okay. And the virtual career fair, have that file ready, have the file organized, ready. If they ask for it, then make sure that you're able to send that to them. So these are some ideas on how to build out your resume. Again, what's important to remember is that whatever experience you have, you can communicate it in a very strong way on your resume. So that way, when you hand it over to them and you're reading through it, you talk about it confidently and you can really communicate that you are the best professional that you can be at that point. You're excited about learning more, excited about being a student, and excited about starting an opportunity with their company.